So the first challenge is kind of reading the environment. And again, that's a big one because like I said, it's one that it's gonna, if you develop that skill, it will help you so much be unique in what you do in all the clubs and teams that you work with. So we walk into an environment and we pretty much think that, oh, I have the technical ability, I have all these certifications, I have all this stuff in my CV that, top notch. And I think that, and we think that once we arrive into an environment, it's going to be easy to just do our job. And then we realize there's so much dynamics around it. Our sessions maybe not doesn't work as well as the ones before in other teams. My players are not getting engaged enough. My staff, I'm having trouble kind of dealing with my staff. And then the first thought that we do is very reactive, it's very ego, and it's normal part of the human being. It's like, what is the problem here? Am I the problem? Should I keep doing this? Should I keep the plan that I have? Should I change in the intervention? So a lot of the times it is not personal. And we think it's personal. We think that if we do an intervention, we didn't do it a good job enough. But a lot of the times it can be unclear roles. I don't know how many coaches I deal with in a daily basis that said, I have no idea what my role in this team is. I think it's this one, but this staff member thinks it's this one. The other staff member thinks it's the other one. The players might not know what is my role. There's a bunch of mixed messages. So if there's no alignment between your staff members, whatever intervention that you want to do is not going to happen. And there's environment mismatch. And you can't control everything, but there's always something to influence. So I'm going to give you an idea of what this looks like in a practical setting, okay? So I've worked with a coach in a national team before, and we were working on potentially adding a pre-activation. So they already had a prehab slot before they went to the pitch for warm-up. That's something that already happened in the day-to-day basis, but that coach identified that a lot of the players first would just chit-chat during the prehab, especially the young players. They would just sit, get the foam roll, and just chit-chat and actually not do any prehab. And he was also, there's a challenge because he couldn't be in the prehab because he had to come with the bus, with the team, to the pitch and didn't have time to be in the prehab. So he was setting up the pitch for a warm-up while the prehab was happening. So the physios were the ones kind of looking at that prehab and leading. So we kind of talked about it, and he's like, I think I need to have a little bit more control of the prehab because first of all, most of them are just talking about things, they're not doing the actual stuff. And I feel like I also can use that time to develop some other things before they come to the warm-up with me on the pitch. Intervention, right? Let's try to see what we can do. So we kind of zoomed out. It's like, okay, how to make your job easier so you can be at the prehab and not be setting up the pitch. Oh, the goalkeeper coaches, they normally go 30 minutes before the entire team on the bus. So what I'm going to do, you as a performance coach, get into the early car 30 minutes before to go to the prehab. And so that way you can set up before the team arrives, the pitch, and then you can be on the prehab when that happens. Great. We can do that. Awesome. So that part one of that problem, right? So part two is, like I said to him, look, prehab, the players should have some autonomy to do whatever they want, but also there must be a structure. If you want to do something with them before the pitch, even if it's 5 minutes out of the 30 minutes of prehab that they have, they do their first 25 minutes themselves. You call them to the side and say, okay, girls, we're going to do 5 minutes, or boys, we're going to do 5 minutes of this prehab before we go to the pitch. And you can work on very micro dose of stuff. You can teach them how to do lateral work. You can do whatever it is. And he's like, yeah, perfect. Sounds great. And I think that should be good. So we talked about this and thinking about intervention. And this is the coach thinking outside, zooming out and saying, how can I influence better my time with the players? And spotting that some players are not able to do the prehab because they're just talking too much. So this is already developing the skill of seeing things, seeing the environment around you. The intervention it's another thing that you can do for the next step, right? So what we did, the next camp that he had, I'm going to try this intervention out. So what he did, he tried intervention out. He explained to the players, educated the players on, look, we're going to try something different today, and not sure if it's going to work, but we're going to try something different, and we're going to do this 5 minutes prehab before we go to the pitch. Explain to the players. Great. So what happened was they went to the pitch, went to the training session. There's a lot of things that happen on the way to the pitch. There was a lot of delays. So players are very used to routines, as you can see. And we probably, as coaches, love routines. So what happened was there's a lot of chaos within the traffic, and they got there late, and players were already comfortable with that setup for a long time. He did that prehab, 5 minutes. It was very rushed. And then the next day, the captains came to him and say, look, I don't think this is going to work. We like to have our autonomy and stuff like that. And I think it's better for us to just kind of go back to what was normal. And at first, as a coach, I don't know, you might have felt that before when have a feedback from players. Our first thing is to react and say, gosh, I can't do this now because it probably was terrible and it didn't work out. But when we stepped out to kind of talk about everything through it, we realized that, first of all, we started the intervention. When he educated the players, he started quite loose. He said, hey, we're going to try this thing out. We'll see how it goes. This automatically, if you have players that are strong kind of will players, they're going to take this as like, this is just a tryout. So you have to be assertive as a coach, kind of go, look, we're going to do this today. This is what we're changing, because I believe that we need more of this, whatever it is, and explain to them. So this was first thing that we reflected back that kind of didn't help the intervention to work. The second thing, of course, was the chaos. It was a lot of chaos on the traffic. When players have all that noise, it's so easy to kind of blame one thing to even like make it worse. So doing that intervention in a very chaotic time, sometimes if we develop the skill well enough, we can kind of go and say, look, I know that it's kind of chaotic today. We're going to still do the intervention, but we're going to do the intervention on the pitch instead of here in the gym. So we're still going to do it, but you can still use the entire time for prehab, and we're just going to take 5 minutes of our warm-up to do this stuff. So now all of a sudden, you start seeing that the intervention itself was not the problem. It was kind of all the other bits that was the noise that kind of allowed the intervention to not work. So I hope you guys see the picture in terms of like, look, if we intervene, this can be any intervention that you do, a new warm-up, a new meeting, a new thing that you're trying, a new technology that you're trying. Always ask the question first about what's around the environment that is not allowing this intervention to work. So before you change anything, read environment. And that means just asking yourself, what is happening here? Not what should be happening, what is actually happening. So delay, bus, players that are used to routine. And if the captain is someone that don't like challenge, they might not even be talking from the group. They might be kind of biased to what they think if they don't like changes. So it's very important to maybe ask different people, knowing who to ask, knowing honest players that can give you the honest feedback. Don't take everything personally. Again, a lot of the times you would think that it's your problem. You would think that it's your fault. But a lot of the times, lack of engagement, confusion often come from the system itself or something that is happening. Even like drama between players in the dressing room that can completely challenge what you're trying to intervene. So you have to be able to read it and know when to do the intervention, when to change the intervention, how to change the intervention without not giving the players too much autonomy, because too much autonomy is not good either. Players need the structure also. Find where you can influence. You will not control everything. like I said, like there's so much complexity in your game, and you probably know from the environments that you work with. But find the little thing that you can influence, and focus on that, and talk to the right people. And that can be a staff member. If you feel like you had a coach that was quite frustrated with the head coach, thinking that the head coach didn't like him or didn't like anything that he was doing because of the body language or the kind of way that he was kind of showing him. And he kind of was proactive, had a conversation, a chat away from the environment, had a coffee with him, was trying to see how can he best serve the coach. And the coach pretty much vented to him and said, look, I'm completely burned out. I have so much on my plate right now, and that's why I'm not giving you the attention that you need. And we assume so much in our heads. How much is in our head that we think that I'm the worst on that. I think the worst case scenario every time on my brain. And then when I go and I'm like, gosh, people are not even thinking about that. It's not even that. It's not even the problem. So stepping aside to not be reactive and maybe proactive and talking to the right people, it's very important. And like I said, talking to the right people also from a player perspective, like I said about the captains, a lot of players are going to try to be selfish towards what they want. So you always need to identify in your roster players that can be honest with you, players that will be honest to a point that because they're more kind of wanting their advantage more than the team. So knowing who you have, the players they have, the coaches that you have, a lot of the times the head coach is not the person to add more information to. Maybe you talk to the assistant coach because the assistant coach has way more space for that. And then the assistant coach talks to the head coach about what he needs to or she needs to know. Okay. So that was the challenge one. Okay. Reading the environments, and just a little bit of something for you to kind of take away with you.